And that's how people get comfortably numb and they just float through life. And the problem is that the world at the moment is so convenient. There's so much convenience. You can, Uber Eats a Michelin star meal to the apartment that you Amazon Primed a brand new couch to while you Netflix a award-winning series on your TV. And that means that you can sedate yourself out of a lot of the big problems that you're facing in life. You can just anesthetize any of the concerns that you've got.
Chris Williamson, long time no see.
How are you, man?
Very good, thank you. What brings you to the Middle East?
I was doing a debate in Qatar, the Doha debates. I was debating, is traditional masculinity under attack? So they flew me from LA direct to Qatar, which was 16 hours, which was pretty brutal. And then I did that and thought, I've got a mate who's about an hour and a half away from here. I'll jump on a plane. I came to see you.
How did they reach out to you about that? I guess that's like one of the things you're talking quite a lot about on your podcast.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they reached out. Maybe my assistant picked up an email from my Instagram public one, or maybe it was the contact form on my website. And they just wanted somebody that would hold that traditional perspective without steaming in and being... There was a live audience and it's in the Middle East. So you need to be a little bit more delicate, perhaps, with how you put this across. There are some cultural expectations. Yeah, it was very, very enjoyable. First debate that I've done. Really good. Really, really good.
Yeah, mate, you are killing it at the moment.
Thank you.
It's so good to see. And for those people who don't know, we actually did a podcast at the end of, it went live November 2020.
Yes.
And it was very different back then.
A little bit different, yeah.
The production, how many subscribers did you have at that point?
60,000 So Boris Johnson, the then Prime Minister of the UK, announced that we were going to go into lockdown, and me and a friend fled the UK on the day that everything was getting shut down. I'm like, I am not staying here. So jumped on a plane, came out to Dubai. Neither of us had ever really lived away from the UK for any significant amount of time, apart from seasons abroad. Came out here, and I had a little pocket shoot GX7 and an iPhone and a Yeti, a single sort of USB Blue Yeti in the middle of an apartment. And that was one of the first podcasts I think you'd done. Was that the first one?
I think it might have been.
Yeah. So sorry to everybody that's having to listen to Mike's voice. I broke the seal 2.5 years ago. But yeah, man, it's been really, really great. The last few years, we were talking about this over dinner last night. I just feel so fulfilled with the work that I do in a way that I never have done before. It's one of those things, everybody's talking about you need to find your passion and go and find it and stuff. And it can become a little trite and like overdone, and everyone's like, yeah, sure, mate, I got to find my passion. But the difference in quality of life from what wasn't a bad life to now one where I genuinely wake up every day and get to do precisely what I want to do is it's unbelievable.
Because we both went to Newcastle University. That's when we first met each other, seen each other on quite a few nights out, paraded around a couple of nightclubs and events topless.
Together. There's some photos still floating out there of me and you.
The sparkly trousers one. I wanted to get it up, but the quality's so bad.
Is it?
But that is...
We'll give it to I'll see if I can find a better version. Give it to the editor. We can throw it on the editor.
Yeah, I went on Facebook and I went on the View Our Friendship. Wow. And there's a smuggling duds photo shoot that we did. And then there was that one where we were wearing the sparkly trousers.
I remember that. I think they were leggings, technically.
Yeah. But wow, I guess we both come a long way since those days.
Yeah, man. It's been, it's very cool. This is one of the things that people don't talk about too much. Like you accumulate friends as you go, and there's certain people that you really want to see win. Lots of people that you want to see win. But the interweaving of your life, as you do things and then you watch them go away. You went to Marbella, I remember, with Joss and Ross and a housemate I used to live with, Adam. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I'm going to go and do a different thing. And then you'll go and do a different thing. There's something really, we complain a lot about technology and it's, it's taking over our lives and it's distracting us. And I've got my massive, massive issues with a ton of social media. But being able to observe your mates go and do cool adventures is pretty awesome.
What did you do after university? You graduated.
I did a master's. So I did 4 years with a placement. Then I did a master's in international marketing. and then was just totally done.
Did you have any idea what it was you wanted to do at that point in time?
Well, I was club promoting, right? So from the first ever seminar that I went to at Newcastle, quantitative methods, which I sucked at, sat next to a guy. I complained I was skinned. That guy was Darren. That guy turned out to be my business partner for the next decade and a half. So very fortunate, very serendipitous. And then finished uni, already had this flourishing business, a lot of different...
Was it a full-time thing?
Yeah. I mean, I was part-time at uni and full-time running Voodoo and Carnage remember Carnage?
Oh, God, that was it. Carnage.
Chris, remember when I was Chris Carnage Williamson on Facebook? Yeah. For years. So did that and then was like, look, I'm making more money from this than I'll ever make from a graduate scheme. And just fell straight into doing that. Did Take Me Out, did Love Island, did the modeling, started DJing, anything that I could make easy money off and gain a bit of status. And that was it until basically the pandemic, and then started the podcast after Love Island and a good bit after Love Island. And those two things came along together, dropped away the modeling, dropped away the DJing. And then pandemic happened, nightlife got pulled out. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to focus on doing the podcast. And that was the beginning of things starting to take off.
Do you think deep down you always wanted to have a bit of status?
Oh, massively. Yeah. I think it's very evident that looking back at all of the things I've chosen, all of the different pursuits, and me trying to get social validation in one way or another. I was pretty unconfident as a kid. And I think that led to me needing validation from the world as I grew up. And this is something that a lot of guys will feel. You've got people that seem to just ooze confidence, and then there's you, and you observe your own insecurities and uncertainties from a front row seat, and you don't do the things that you want to do, and you don't achieve the things you want to achieve. So I figured that if I felt like people maybe wouldn't want me as a person, if they needed me, that was close enough. If they needed me to get VIP, if they needed me to get Carnage t-shirts, if they needed me to get cheaper entry or Q jump or get introduced to that Fitbird, it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't resonate. And Aubrey Marcus says, the persona is incapable of receiving love. It can only receive praise. Because if you play a role, if you're not being yourself and somebody says, well done, it doesn't hit you. It hits like this character that you are. And the pandemic very much was the beginning of me really aggressively stripping that away. I'd done a lot of work before that, but because it pulled away, I'm no longer the club promoter. I'm no longer the guy who stood on the front door of the nightclub.
No longer the guy with the big iconic afro.
No, neither that.
I bet most people who are watching this don't even know what you looked like back then.
No, I mean, you can find a photo of that and put it on the YouTube if you want. Yeah, Take Me Out with this massive white guy afro. Insane. We both
done a podcast with a wig on. Really class. Yes. So you no longer have that business, the nightclub business.
I exited Voodoo last year. I gave everything back to my business partner.
Talk to me more about that, because I think you mentioned it's quite like, how do you even put a value on something like that?
It's very difficult. Yeah. So for the people that don't know, the way that nightlife promotion works is you have a venue that has staff and a bar and a sound system and door staff that want to punch people. And then you have club promoters who understand social media and marketing and what's trendy. And they've got a team of usually between 200 and 1,000 networkers that can go and do stuff, but they don't actually own a venue. So you have a venue that doesn't know anyone who wants to party, and you have club promoters that know people that want to party but don't have a venue. And the gap in between is the relationship. The problem is that as a events company, you're basically a marketing agency, but you're a marketing agency that holds zero assets. The main asset you have is your brand and the reputation of the brand and all of the guys and girls that work for you. But they cycle out every 3 years because they're all students. So trying to come up with okay, so what's the value on this? It's very difficult. And basically what we decided to do is just say, here is a period of time. What is the projected revenue for that period of time? Will basically pay me out on that. But I'd been carried heavily with that business for a little while. In any case, I'd kind of exited myself a little bit. I was slightly checked out. I'd ruptured my Achilles just before I came out here. So that had already meant that I couldn't work the nights. I'm on crutches for 3.5 months. So that had really pulled me out of a bunch of stuff. And it was the right time. And I think stuff happened. David Data talks about this in The Way of the Superior Man, which is a phenomenal book. If any guys are listening and they feel a little bit lost, really, really great book. and or girls to understand guys' mentality too. And he talks about feeling like a crab that's outgrowing its shell, and as all of the things that used to fire you up no longer do. But that causes conflict, turmoil, because you go, hang on, this used to be my thing. I used to take pride and pleasure in this, and now that's maybe not quite as present as it used to be. And then you feel guilty about it. And that was definitely me. There was things about work that I couldn't get myself as fired up about. And that's now how I feel about the podcast.
Yeah. When you started the podcast, I think this is quite interesting because you didn't really have a social media presence, or at least on YouTube. So you're going into this new market with nothing.
Raw dogging it.
Yeah, building it up from scratch. So yes. What were the early days like for you doing the podcast?
Yeah, I think the world of podcasting now has changed an awful lot in 5 years since I started. We were talking about this last night as well. It is a different world. It's much more competitive. It's much more sophisticated. I didn't have an existing platform. I came off Love Island with 7,000 more followers than I went onto it with, which you think there's people that get a name mention on there now and gain 100,000 followers, right? It wasn't the same sort of size of show. So what that should do to anybody that's thinking, I don't have enough of a platform to start a Substack or to start a YouTube channel or to build a podcast or to put my art online or create music or whatever, you don't necessarily need that. What you do need to do is be able to put up with a long, long time of not really growing much. So the start of the show was interesting. I really loved the conversations. First episode I did was in my old office in Newcastle on Osborne Road, talking to a friend who was going to row the Atlantic solo because I thought it was interesting. I wanted to hear his story, and every single time that I sat down to have a conversation, I loved it. But in terms of growth, it was painful. And you can look at the graph.
Yeah, I checked that out on Social Blade. Yeah. It's like the growth of the first couple of years is very, very slow.
Nothing. Yeah, it's even worse on audio. If you look at the audio plays, there was days when we would do 0 plays in March, April, May of 2018. And then Jack Butcher calls it latent leverage, right? That you just accumulate. Like how tectonic plates work. It's like nothing, fuck. There's like an 8 Richter scale, something that goes off. And yeah, it was slow. It's very slow. But I enjoyed doing it, which means that it didn't feel like work.
Yeah. I think that applies to like a lot of things, whether it be social media or even starting a business. You just have to be patient and very persistent because the first couple of years, not much is really going to happen. And I think a lot of people who think about starting a social media channel, whatever it might be on YouTube or whatever, they'll grind away, not see any results, and then they'll just give up and think, oh, well, it's not going to work out. But they might be, a couple of months away from having maybe a video that pops off.
Have you ever seen that Jack Butcher graph, "This is pointless"? It's a black and white graph, and it's just a flat graph, and then there's an arrow that says "This is pointless," and then if you continue the graph, it goes whoop, and it's a hockey stick. That's survivorship bias. If I'm going to devil's advocate the other side, the people like me that say, yeah, you've just got to keep going, evidently the people that have benefited from keeping going. How many people are out there that kept going and nothing didn't happen? And you say, oh, you should have just kept going. And you go, well, if you keep going for long enough, you either give up or you win. That's really the way that it ends up working. But for me, I very much enjoyed it.
One thing I've noticed about you is I feel like you have just decided, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do everything that I can possibly do to make this work, to make this channel grow. Like everything you're doing on a day-to-day basis is helping you to achieve that one main goal that you have in mind.
Yeah. So not very many people treat their chosen pursuits like athletes do. And if you look at an athlete, they dedicate their entire life to their single highest point of contribution, which is, how do I be the best at baseball, basketball, weightlifting, whatever, right? They watch game tape, they do mindset days, they rest and recover, they do technique work, they do strength and conditioning work, they get massages, and they have coaches for each different area of their sport. Then their pre-game routine, their nutrition's dialed in, their hydration's dialed in, they've worked with, every single bit is really finely dialed, and almost nobody treats their chosen pursuit with the same level of focus and resolution that an athlete does, except maybe elite classical musicians and stuff too. And I figured, one of my friends, David Perel, wrote a blog post called Think Like an Athlete. And I really wondered what would happen if I treated podcasting like an athlete would. So, okay, well, what's the thing that I'm doing? Okay, well, I'm speaking, so I need to get a diction coach. I need to get a speech and diction coach to improve my understanding of how my mouth works and to have vocal warm-ups. So in my room, before I came here, I'm doing vocal warm-ups.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I know that if I arrive and I haven't done it, it takes 3 to 5 minutes for me to do it, depending on how I feel. But the difference in terms of how quick I can start speaking effectively is 20% or 30%, much better. And then I've accumulated this over time, right? Okay, so I know how much I need to sleep. I know the right supplements. I know how much caffeine I should have. I know what level of hydration. I know how long it takes for something that I drink to add hydration to my vocal folds. It takes about 2.5 hours. So I had to get up 2.5 hours before this, even though I was tired, to get half a liter of water in me. Now, people might say, oh, that's taking it a little bit too far. Why do you need to focus on this enough? Other people can do a podcast without focusing on stuff like this. But I quite like it. I quite like being dedicated to the thing that I've said. I've said that this is the thing that I want to be really good at. Why would I leave more on the table? What? Yeah. Because it's cool. Because it's cooler to just rock up and not do things correctly. That doesn't seem cooler to me. And also because I like pushing and seeing how well I can get things done.
Yeah, that would give you the edge.
And there's two good examples of what happens when you have a single ordinating principle in life, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. So Bezos, throughout his entire time at Amazon, had one criteria through which every decision was made. Does this improve customer experience? Every single question. Does this improve the customer experience? Elon Musk, does this get us closer to Mars? Every single thing that he's doing, does this get us closer to Mars? That makes life unbelievably easy because you have conflicting different values and virtues and desires and goals and whatnot. And it's very difficult. You'll know this. I'm going to try and build a business, but I also want to stay in shape, but I want to, have a social life, but I want to do the whatever, and I want to travel and have adventure, but I want to have a routine. All of these things conflict together. If you have one thing that you're focusing on, everything else just falls away. And the more that you can be monomaniacal in your pursuits, the better it is. And this is one of the problems of success on the other side, that as success comes, more opportunities come, which distract you from the main thing.
Yeah.
Look at the people that both me and you respect an awful lot. Someone like a Hormozi, 5 hours every single morning, he writes. 3,500 hours on this most recent book. 5 hours every single morning. That's my highest point of contribution. Everything else can come second. And he's running the business, acquisition.com. He's training. He's got the marriage. He's got the rest of it. But he's got one thing. That's my most important thing. I'm going to focus on that. And it's very effective.
I think for me, that's one of the things that's holding me back a little bit because I have so many different things which I'm kind of working on and there's not that one thing that I'm pushing towards. I think it will become clearer to me in the next year or so when I decide, okay, this is the thing which I really want to push and focus on. And it's one thing I've noticed with the podcast. Like now I have 2 YouTube channels and I noticed with this podcast, because I'm trying to focus on growing this, I'm then starting to neglect my other channel, which is a pretty big channel that shouldn't be neglected. So I don't know. What do you think I should focus on? Just look at me from the outside.
I think you're really fired up by the podcast. Yeah. I think that you're really enjoying it. And it shouldn't be that you always just do things because this is the highest point of leverage in terms of what can grow the business or whatever. There's absolutely, if you decide to take a complete break from your other channel for ages, or if someone says, I'm going to just let work tick over and I'm going to build my writing portfolio, or I'm going to start drawing, or I'm going to take up salsa or whatever, and you enjoy it, crack on. Like, you're not supposed to just endure hard but effective labor in service of something. And it seems to me like you're really, really enjoying the podcast. It definitely seems to be a source of personal growth for you at the moment. You're talking about how it's changed the way that you talk, communicate, your ability to converse.
I'm learning things that I would have never had an interest in learning about.
Yep.
Because it's one of the things about podcasting. You almost need to know a little about everything to at least have some input on the matter.
Correct.
And even yesterday when we were having a conversation for your channel, And you
Link in show notes below. Subscribe to Chris Williamson.
You asked me some questions. And I was like, I actually don't have a clue. Which encourages me to be like, oh shit, I want to be better prepared next time I have a conversation so that I can actually say something about this.
Yeah. And you accumulate that over time, right? Which is why when you listen to a Rogan or someone like that now who's 2,000 episodes deep, he's so able to hold a conversation. He's got all these things to talk about. It's like, dude, if you'd spent 5,000 or 7,000 hours over the last 10 years talking to people, you'd have a lot to draw on as well.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I want to know, at what point when you were doing the podcast, did you notice like a big boost? Because from my observation, I feel as though when things really took off for you was when you did the first interview with Jordan Peterson. That's when I was like, oh, okay. Like this is getting
stepped up into the A-League.
Serious now. Yeah. And I think a couple of those videos easily got $1 million.
Yeah, and the rest. Yeah, so that was just after the trip to Dubai. And that made a big difference. Certainly the longest levers when it comes to growing a podcast, for the non-podcasters out there, sorry, but this is like the most important thing is just getting big names on. Mm-hmm. If you can get big names on your show, you will accumulate their audience. And if you're good, they'll stick about. If you're shit, they're not going to stick about in any case. So it doesn't really matter. And that was getting Jordan on for the first one was great. I timed it perfectly because this Marvel Red Skull comic thing where he'd been called a magical super Nazi was just released by Ta-Nehisi Coates. So that happened on the Friday. We recorded on that happened on the Thursday. We recorded on the Friday and we published that clip on the Friday night. And it did, by the time the episode went out on the Monday, that clip had done like 2.5 million plays. Mm-hmm. So everything had just been primed. And that made a big difference. But we'd started to pick up speed before that. Basically, it's just a case of iterating, continuing to find interesting people. And then after a while, people come to you for you. But for a long time, there's no reason that anyone should care about what you've got to say over anybody else until you have been given the seal of approval by people that are already established within the industry. There's so many podcasts, so many YouTube channels, and so much poor content out there that you need to differentiate yourself. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to say, this other person who you already respect thinks that this person who you don't know about is worthy of your time. You should listen to him.
What was it like going on Joe Rogan?
Fun. Very fun.
Were you nervous?
No, not for that one. I was excited, but I wasn't nervous, which is strange because I get nervous for things. I was nervous before my debate the other day, nervous sometimes when I do certain podcasts. There's this Hormozy quote that I said to David Goggins and then went super viral online. You don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. Outwork your self-doubt. I'd done 500 episodes before I went on Rogan. If I wasn't going to be ready after 1,000 hours of talking to people, when am I going to be ready? And it feels like home to me. And this is what it must be like for anybody that does anything. A parent that gets, the first time that you hold your kid and what do I do with it or whatever, 3 years later, after you've spent tens of thousands of hours looking at your kid, you don't even think about it and you're just parenting. Right? You're just naturally parenting and doing stuff. Or the first time that you go into a gym, I put you in a gym now and it just feels like home to you. Everything is within your control. You understand all of the different goals you've got going on in there. You can even both play with the rules and then break the rules in a better way. And that was what podcasting to me feels like now. That it feels like home. So going on Rogan was really, really fun. The guy's a master of communication. By far, it's like being a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and thinking, I've got this. And then rolling with a 7th degree black belt and going, okay, there's still levels to this game. He's outstanding. And he's been very, very complimentary and very helpful and very supportive since then. And we've kept in touch a lot. He's great, man. Schultz hit the nail on the head when I went on his. We're very fortunate that at the moment, a massively growing platform happens to have a benevolent leader at the head of it. No ego, no backbiting, no bitterness, no everything. Like if you were to pick someone to forge ahead as the leader of a particular growing industry, you would pick someone pretty much that's Rogan, because he's just, however cool and nice you think he is, he's cooler and nicer in real life. It's perfect. It's really, really good.
You could tell he really enjoyed doing that episode with you. Like he was He was happy.
I was very happy with how it went. It was really what I wanted to talk about. My favorite podcast of all time is Naval Ravikant on Rogan.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to try and do a little tribute to that. So the last hour or so of Rogan's episode was me doing my little Naval thing.
Yeah, I've got, you mentioned before, he's probably the number one guest that you would like to have on your podcast, but he doesn't do them.
He's taken what he said on Twitter was a extended sabbatical from podcasting, yeah.
But don't you, so this is what I don't understand, because it was such a good episode. Like, I've gone back to it numerous times. I've learned so much from it. Don't you think he's doing a bit of a disservice to humanity by not doing more podcasts?
Like, do more podcasts.
Why are you keeping it all for yourself?
I don't know. That's a very good point. One of the things that you have, if someone's an outlier with regards to their insights, they're going to be outliers in other areas as well. And that can be in their demeanor, their approach to doing press and exposure and so on and so forth. So the price that you have to pay for having Naval in the world and the amazing insights that he gives you is that he's also, the non-typical insights also have a non-typical way of expressing themselves out into the world. He hasn't done one of his own podcasts, except for one with David Deutsch, who's this like physicist, theorist, futurist, like super genius guy. He just dropped it the other week. No warning. I did another conversation with David Deutsch. It's like 50 minutes long. It's of limited like use to me. Yes, if I could create a big billboard somewhere, it would be like, make Naval podcast again or something on Modern Wisdom. But he's phenomenal. I'm sure that he'll come back and do more stuff at some point. But he said, I don't ever want to say the same thing twice on a podcast, which is fair.
But surely he has so much to say on so many different topics.
Maybe. He likes being information dense, which means that he tries to get as much across in as few words as possible. But yeah, he's outstanding, man. He's a very, very singular individual.
He mentioned something in one of the, I think it was the Joe Rogan episode, where he believes that everybody can be rich.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? Because there's obviously a lot of people at the moment get scared with the rise of AI, and people think, oh, well, my job is going to get replaced by a robot. But he seems to think that regardless of that, everybody can still be rich.
I think I'd be interested to speak to him about it, because everybody can't be rich, right? Because every person is somebody else's exit liquidity, right? In order for not everyone can have the top level job, and there is inevitably going to be inequalities within any system. But I think everybody that is listening to this podcast can, and that's probably what he's meaning. Everyone that's consuming his content can, but that's not everybody, right? It's just everyone that's listening. You've already selected for a very specific cohort. Think about all of the people and all of the content that gets consumed. Then think about the sliver of people that are watching us now or watch the Rogan episode. I certainly think that he's broken down the principles of leverage, which is a word that nobody was really talking about outside of Silicon Valley types until Naval popularized it. And leverage is very important. So there is one of you, but there are unlimited pieces of code out there that could replicate you. So for instance, with you used to be a PT, there is 24 hours in your day, and that's how many hours you could PT if you needed to, and you could increase the price of your PTing. But if you release an app online, there are now an unlimited number of you out there. That's leverage, right? You're multiplying yourself out multiple times. People can do that. Everybody can do that. But not everybody understands the principles of leverage. And you can leverage through media. We're doing this now. This is one conversation. Each time that someone presses play on this podcast, me and you don't need to sit back down and have the same conversation again so they can listen to it. It's recorded, right? That's media leverage. Or you can leverage through labor as well. You could employ a bunch of staff. They can do the work on your behalf, or they can do sales calls on your behalf or whatever. That's another type of leverage. Those are the ways in which people really start to ramp up cash. But until he started talking about it, no one really spoke about it.
Who's the next biggest guest you got coming on, or is that, are you quite secretive with who you've got coming up? Because I know we had a conversation last night about these guests which you have coming on, and they're pretty damn impressive, and I'm slightly jealous.
Yeah, so I can't say the really big one that's happening in June in Florida. But
I can't.
Sorry, don't fucking don't. Matthew Hussey is the next big one. Do you know him? Dating coach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to LA to see him at the end of April. I can definitely talk about the ones I'm doing at Gymshark. So when will this come out?
2 weeks or something.
Cool. Okay. So if this is before the 1st of April, and if you're in the UK and you're near Manchester, there is a free Gymshark event happening, Run the City, on the weekend of the 1st and the 2nd of April. And I'm going to be doing live podcasts there. Ryan Terry, Ben Francis, Ashley Kane, David Lade. So that'll be really fun. Matthew Hussey. But two reasons. First reason that I've stopped being quite so open about my upcoming guest list is that other shows were using my announcement about guests to not have to go and do their own guest booking research. So I spend probably hundreds of hours, tens of hours a month, trawling through places that I go to find interesting people to bring on the show. And I would announce at the start of each month, here's my upcoming guests for the next 4 weeks. If you're another show, you don't need to go and do the work.
I could look at it and be like, oh, so these guys are willing to do podcasts.
He's got a book coming out, and he's doing a tour, and he's got a whatever, and he's got this thing. So I stopped doing that because it was getting annoying. And the other reason is a lesson that I learned from Club Promo, which is if you do a very extended, protracted launch period for anything, people get excited. Mm-hmm. So I have a huge guest that's coming in June, right? This guy's never done a podcast before, and it'll be very, very exciting. So I'll do an announcement that there's a big announcement coming. Then I'll announce maybe the date that it's happening. And then I'll do a teaser about the episode. And then I'll say when I'm going to record and who it is. And then we'll release the episode. And then we'll do a build up toward the actual event. It really gets people engaged. We did it with Goggins. We did a photo do you remember we did a photo where it was just his hand from behind the scenes? And there was like 1,000 comments of people trying to guess who the hand was. And someone had worked out from the watch that he wore on Rogan, it was the same type of Garmin Phoenix GS07 or whatever watch. And they were like, oh, that's Goggins, because that's the watch that he wears. I was like, holy fuck. Like the internet, like, be careful what you put on the internet, because they're able to do really good investigation.
Why do you think that some of these almost very exclusive guests who really don't do many podcasts, why do they agree to do yours?
Because they listen to it.
So they already listen and they respect what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, certainly the one that's coming up in June is that he's a fan of the show. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons that he wants to come on is because he wants to meet. And, the opportunity to go on a platform that you care about. This is the thing, man. Like, no matter how big of a person, big of a celebrity, the platform, the whatever it is, they watch YouTube too.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, when he's stuck on the tarmac waiting for his private jet pilot to arrive because he's been delayed from the hotel or whatever, will, in between all of the work that he does, scroll through YouTube and watch stuff. And he'll have his favorite creators. Yeah. And if one of his favorite creators reaches out to him, there's already a parasocial relationship that's going on. And yeah, the bar may be raised and whatever. You might not be in Elon Musk's algorithm. You might not have like triggered his newsfeed algorithm or whatever, but everybody watches stuff. Fucking like Ed Sheeran watches YouTube and listens to podcasts, probably. Beyonce, P. Diddy, like everybody does this. So if you continue to put out good stuff, you will start to attract in people. I've had some messages from people that listen to the show, and I'm like, 65 million plus followers on Instagram, huge celebrities that are like, hey man, I don't really use Instagram, but I just wanted to tell you, like, I've been going through a rough period recently and the show's really helped. I'm like, holy fuck. It's very cool.
That kind of solidifies the fact that what you're doing right now is probably what you should be doing.
I think so. Yeah, it's a good indication. Yeah.
Fuck. I would love to know what celebrities, if any, have been watching some of my big videos.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
there's probably a lot of detectives and police that watch the Thurston episode.
You think? Yeah. Imagine if your episode gets used in court.
Probably.
Evidence, like whatever it is, exhibit 14.A, first things Thirst.
It just makes me think sometimes, I've got to be careful what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you do.
Have you ever said anything that you regret saying, or do you ever get backlash?
Backlash for sure, but I work very, very hard at being balanced.
Yeah.
We spoke about this last night, the soft signal of effectiveness, right? Like if you want to change people's beliefs, it's way less cool to steam in and rather than saying it's these people's fault, it's the patriarchy, or it's fucking feminists, or it's, you know, the right, or it's whatever. It's way less cool to say a gentle approach where you caveat, where you're sort of soft and you slowly start to bring people there. But I genuinely care about people that are struggling. I really, really want to understand why the person I'm speaking to feels that way, or why other people feel this way. And I think that comes across. I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a bad guy. So if somebody finds some smoking gun on a podcast somewhere that suggests that I'm the bigoted, homophobic, racist, misogynist that they've always thought I was, like, I know that that's not representative of me. I know that those aren't beliefs that I hold. So it's an error. Like, it's their error, not mine.
You can't hide that. In doing 600 plus episodes, if you are that type of person, you would let it slip at some point.
Precisely, yeah. Well, this is the thing with Rogan. So you remember when the N-word video from Rogan got released? And people wanted to drag him under the bus. And the way that it works with the press is they say, this is the tip of the iceberg. We know that lurking down there in the depths is the bigot that we've always known that they were. The problem that you had was that even a casual fan of big podcasts has watched 200, 500, 1,000 hours of this person. And they go, well, what you're doing is you're playing with a vacuum of information. You're saying that I don't know everything about this person lurking in the depths. Therefore, you can fill this gap based on this single piece of unrepresentative content. But I've seen the whole iceberg.
Yeah.
I don't believe that you know more about this person than I do, guy that's never listened to my favorite creator. And this is one of the protective things that you have if you start to accumulate enough backlog, a catalog of content. True Geordie has survived a number of different challenges that he's gone through because, you know, he's got nearly a decade or something of putting stuff out. And sure, you know, some people can take issue with the things that he's said, perhaps rightly so in certain circumstances. But it's like, the guy's spoken an awful lot. You know, if he was really this bigoted about X or Y or Z, it would have probably appeared before now. So yeah, but that being said, there is an upper bound even on that you couldn't continue to have a scandal every other week and be like, oh, well, I do trust that he's actually being nice. But no, there's only so far that you can use goodwill.
I think you've seen that a lot with the fans of Kanye. Like, they would always be on his side and be like, oh, you know, he's just a little bit crazy, but, you know, we love Kanye. And then he just keeps saying more and more ridiculous. And then they're like, I can't back this guy up anymore.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about this yesterday again. You know, people's success. If someone's successful, you're prepared to accept an awful lot of transgressions from them. And for as long as Kanye can continue, Kanye puts out another album that's a banger after banger after banger, people will listen to it. They might not support him, but it'd be very difficult to not listen to the music because someone that's very, very talented and successful at what they do is always going to draw other people in.
Mm-hmm. Is there a particular topic which you enjoy talking about the most?
The single thread between everything has been human nature. Like, I really wanted to understand myself in the world when I started the podcast. I was toward the end of my 20s and felt lost a little bit. That I didn't.
You want to know why you do the things that you do?
Precisely correct.
Yeah.
I want to understand myself and the world around me. And I think fundamentally, like, that's what an awful lot of what we're looking at on these podcasts is about. Like, even if you listen to Graham Hancock, you know, and he's talking about ancient aliens and the pyramids and all this sort of stuff, you're still looking for the threads of human nature through these stories. Okay, so how does this relate to me? Like, what would I be like if I was born? How does this inform the way that civilizations evolved so that the world that I inhabit is now different in that way? And that was human nature, man. Psychology, evolutionary psychology, psychotherapy, all of those sorts of topics gas me up. But then, you know, I had Sienna Day on the show.
Really?
Yeah, Sienna came on. She's for the people that don't know, for the people that don't spend enough time on Pornhub, she's a award-winning adult actress that we
used to live with her.
Yeah, I know.
That was funny.
Mike used to live with. She came on the show, and I found that fascinating. What's it like to be an actress in the adult industry? Tell me what it's like. Like, I just want to learn about people. But human nature's been the thing that's gassed me up the most.
There's a quote from Naval, which is about desires. And I think he says, a desire is a promise you make to yourself to be unhappy until you get whatever it is that you want.
Correct.
And I think that is so crazy to think about, because it makes me think about my desires that I have. And my desires have changed over time, but I would love to figure out a way to change what it is that I desire. Because I think it's definitely improved over the past couple of years. But for sure, I definitely had a whole load of desires which were not helping me to achieve the goals which I wanted to achieve.
What, like?
Yeah, a desire to, I want to party, or I want to go and sleep with this girl, or I just want to go and travel. Desires that were surrounding this very hedonistic lifestyle. And it's something which I wanted to change. I guess I have changed it a little bit over time.
Yeah.
But have you figured out any way to change your desires?
Really good question. There's an article that you can't access now because the guy's website got taken over by one of those porn bot things that's phishing for your emails. But it may be out there, called What Do You Want to Want by Kyle Eschenroder. There's a version on the Art of Manliness website still. This thing really, really profoundly impacted me. So what you're talking about isn't necessarily about what you desire. It's about what you want to desire, right? The difference between what you want and what you want to want is everything. What you want is informed by the way that you've dealt with past trauma, societal programming, your habits, passive least resistance, everything, right? What you want to want is you being intentional. It's your highest self going forward and saying, this is what I decide that my desires should be. Do you understand the difference between those two things, right? So you're saying, I could want to eat the cookie right now. What I want to want is to have some water and go to bed, right? Now, it's going to be difficult because your wants aren't just made from first principles. They're not just a rational thing. You have innate biological, it's rooted in biology, right? So the reason that you want to go and sleep with that hot girl over there is you're biologically programmed to do that. But you can step in, right, and choose your desires. You can interject yourself into your programming and start to separate that out. So one of the first things that I did after reading that particular article was I looked at the things that I wanted in life and asked, do I actually want to want this? Do I want to want the things that I want at the moment? And there was a ton of them, as you've analyzed, that I didn't. Everyone who's in their 20s, especially from the UK, will be familiar with the Friday afternoon itch, where, you know, you've got toward the end of the week and you think, I could really do with a beer. I could really do with a beer right now. And it's, you know, it's the middle of June and it's the sun's starting to come out and it's later evenings and the clocks have changed. And you think, oh yeah, beer garden and a Bulmers, that'd be nice. But I realized that I didn't want to want that. I didn't want to want that. So I went sober for forever, right? On and off for 6 months, then did 1,000 days of sobriety, despite not having a problem with drinking the same way that you didn't. And that changed my desires. I didn't want to want partying. I wanted to be able to enjoy different sorts of events. And I was able to step in and change my desires. So if you don't assess what you want to want in life, you are a slave to your biological impulses and the desires that you've absorbed from people around you.
Yeah.
You are, at best, the cleverest rat in the room, right? If you succeed at what other people and society and your path of least resistance have told you that you want to want, at best, you can become a rich or famous slave, right? But it's not you. It's not you that chose that. This isn't your life that you're going through. This is the shadow on the wall of everybody else's choice that you're then trying to replicate yourself. So the main thing that you have to do is step back and look at all of the desires that you've got in life, all of the actions that you go through, all of the things. And there's not that many. If you actually look at them, they fall into buckets. You know, they'll fall into the bucket of adventure, of materialism, of like free and easy sex, of reputation, of validation, of love, affection, all these things. And you go, okay, like what of these do I actually want? And this isn't me saying that I've managed to cast off like all of my biology and stuff. Like it's a battle that I face every single day.
What do you find that the desire that you find is creeping up with you that you would rather just not be there at this point in time?
Very good question.
Because I feel like you have a lot of it nailed, especially with all the people who you've spoken to. From the outside observing you, it looks like you really have your shit together.
It's not bad. It's definitely the best it's ever been. But it's the same as anything, you know, as you get better, you then start to zoom in and focus on smaller problems with an increasing lens. So there's always something to be working on. Certainly for me, I have it, and we spoke about this yesterday, the tension between the desire for variety and adventure in life and routine in order to be able to achieve a lot. That I want to want both of those things, and I can't work out which one. Mm-hmm. The last week I've been to Vegas, LA, Qatar, Dubai, and I'll be back to Texas in the space of 9 days. I always wanted to travel and have adventure, but I'm also writing a book and trying to build a podcast and trying to still show up like an athlete for my chosen pursuit. And that's a tension, and I can't work out which of those. And maybe it's a case of just periodizing each of them, mm-hmm. right? Okay, I'll do this thing for a while, I'll do a bit of adventure, and then I'll come back. I think that this is your approach to stuff too. There is still a lot of, not a lot actually, but there is a desire for validation, for acceptance, for status and renown. But that's actually fallen away an awful lot as I feel more fulfilled by the work that I do. And this is the beautiful intersection of when you do something which you're genuinely proud of doing and that you enjoy yourself. If you do that, the desire for external validation, you don't even need to deprogram it that much. It just falls away. Mm-hmm. Like there is nothing else that I would rather do at 11 a.m. on a Saturday morning in Dubai than sit down and have a cool chat with you on your new show. Like there is nothing else that I'd rather do. I'm perfectly caffeinated. I've had the right amount of nootropics before I came in. I feel fucking great. Yeah. I feel fantastic. And the beautiful view, great conversation. This is exactly what I want to be doing. So I don't care mm-hmm. about how it comes across. And also because you've put so many reps in, you know, it's probably going to hopefully be good. And maybe it'll add value to people. And it's so great, man. Like I'm so thankful for the intersection of experience, skills, and desires that have meant that I can do this. And this is what I want for everybody else. Like I really want every person that's listening to this to be able to find that intersection of what is right for them, because it's so fulfilling. And I always thought throughout my 20s that I had depression. And I realized that probably contributed quite heavily to the fact that I didn't have a stable sleep and wake pattern at all. It just wrecks your mood, absolutely destroys your mood. You know, I was going to bed 3 or 4 a.m. 2 or 3 nights a week for a decade, right? Because I was at work. I had to cash the till, I had to finish everything up. And then every few months I'd spend a few days in bed. I wouldn't be able to get out of bed. And I'd feel so ashamed of myself for what you're supposed to be the owner of this company, this nightlife thing, and you're the guy on the front door and everybody knows you and you got the big hair and the blue tick on Twitter and you've been on Love Island and blah, blah, blah. Like what a piece of shit you are that you can't get out of bed. Why? What's wrong with life? Oh, nothing is wrong. You're not bankrupt. No one in your life's died. You're not grieving. Everything's ostensibly great. And you're whining about the sheer weight of human existence. And it used to make me feel really ashamed of myself, but I realized that I wasn't creating a foundation, which was mostly, to be honest, wasn't to do with any of the like existential philosophical insights. It was just biological. It's like, okay, stable sleep and wake pattern, get enough sunlight in your eyes, have a group of people around you that support what you're doing, have a pursuit that you care about, like basic shit. Like none of this required an in-depth reframing of what you want to want. It was like, just sort your life out, right? Like literally sort your life out. But then as things have progressed, like the texture of my own mind, remember, I thought I was locked into this. This was the only kind of world that I thought I knew. The way that I would observe the potential for a situation to happen, I would always err on the side of this is going to go wrong. It's going to be a failure, scarcity mentality, very fearful, driven by anxiety, driven by uncertainty, sensitivity. And the texture of my mind now is that feels like an echo. I can tell that it used to be there, but it's like I don't know, it's like a floor that once had a stain on it that you couldn't miss. And now it's just like only in the right light, at the right time of day, at the right angle, can you even start to see a tiny little bit of it anymore. And it's very, it fills me with hope for people that think that they are locked into a particular type of mindset that they can't get out of. And I understand there is a big culture of cynicism on the internet, which I'm sure that you've seen. Oh, it must be nice for you. Easy for you to say. Yeah, of course. Like, it's simple from where you're sat. I understand that compulsion, because if you haven't seen any light that can drag you out of the challenges that you're facing at the moment, you are me 10 years ago that feels like you're locked into this cycle of depression or sadness or whatever.
It was like me when I had my job working at Hollister. I thought that was going to be forever. I managed to get out of that one and pursue the personal training, which was a hell of a lot more satisfying. But then again, after doing that for a couple of years, I was like, is this it? Like, am I just going to be in the same gym all day, every day for the rest of my life? Like, if you are starting to feel depressed, or, I mean, I'm not saying full on depressed, but maybe a little bit sad, then I guess that's an indication that, okay, this isn't right. Something needs to change. But most people don't really seem to make that change. They just accept.
Yeah, it's very, but it's also, I understand that. I knew that I should be making a commitment to the podcast. You know, the COVID meant that I couldn't do it earlier really than I did, but there was something that wasn't quite there. But it's hard, man. Like to decide to let go of something that you know is already working for you and is effective, to risk it for something else that you're uncertain about is terrifying. I really fell in love with this concept called the region beta paradox. I spoke about it on Rogan. So if you imagine that if you were to travel less than a mile, you would walk it. And if you were to travel a mile or more, you would drive it. Surprisingly, you would travel 2 miles quicker than you would go 1 mile, right? So the point there is that sometimes worse situations can be better than better situations, because it galvanizes you into some sort of action. And you could imagine you're in a relationship and the relationship is not great, but it's not terrible. They're not abusive. They're fine. They support you and stuff, but it really doesn't fire you up and you're not that in love with them. Or you live in an apartment and it's a bit expensive and it's in a dodgy area of town and there's a bit of mold on the ceiling, but the landlord's quite nice and, you know, it's convenient. It's not far from your work and whatever. All of these situations for these people would actually be better off if they were worse, because if the apartment was unlivable, it would force them to go into a look for someone new. If the relationship was abusive or evidently toxic or whatever, it would cause these people to reject the relationship outright and then go and find something that'll fire them up. And this is how people get stuck in region beta, which is this chasm of comfortable complacency in the middle, right? It's not bad. It's not sufficiently bad to make you change it, but it's not good enough for you to say, oh, this is good. This is actually great. It's just acceptable. And that's how people get comfortably numb and they just float through life. And the problem is that the world at the moment is so convenient. There is so much convenience. You can, you know, Uber Eats a Michelin star meal to the apartment that you Amazon Primed a brand new couch to while you Netflix a award-winning series on your TV. And that means that you can sedate yourself out of a lot of the big problems that you're facing in life. You can just anesthetize any of the concerns that you've got because there's so much easy enjoyment and pleasure available to you. And region beta means getting out of that sometimes means assessing a little bit more aggressively.
Yeah, I think I've definitely noticed that living in Dubai. You can have a very comfortable, easy life. And I've needed to force myself to do new things to feel some kind of like this, for example. Because before this, I was just like, I would just vlog and just get the camera to just follow me around. And I felt like I wasn't doing anything that was challenging me. I was just cruising. The most challenging thing that I probably did was just go and train legs, and that was it. Everything else was just too easy. So this has been a good challenge for me. And I think there's certainly, looking forward, there's more things which I would like to challenge myself with.
What are you thinking?
Maybe the the speaking in front of large audiences, that is something which still, the thought of it makes me think, oh my
Make
God.
your bumhole do this.
Exactly. But I know if I do it, I mean, it's like the same thing I have when I train, when I'm about to do a horrible leg session. I have to psych myself up beforehand because I know it's going to be pretty damn unpleasant and I'm going to have to force myself to become very uncomfortable. But I always envision how I'm going to feel after I've completed it. So if I've had an amazing leg session and I push myself 100%, couldn't have done more, I get a tremendous amount of satisfaction knowing that I have not bitched out. I've given it everything that I could possibly give. And just having that period of being uncomfortable gives you a buzz for the rest of the day. Yeah,
I mean, everybody that I know, absolutely everybody that is successful in a well-balanced way does hard things. They like to do hard things on a regular basis. You know, you look at Rogan, someone who basically could just coast through life with all of the money and status that he needs. And he does these fucking insane kettlebell workouts and every single morning gets into his ice bath, which he's managed to get below freezing by adding salt to it. Like if you throw a ton of salt in, the ice won't freeze. So you can get to like a 31 Fahrenheit, 30 Fahrenheit ice bath. And why are they doing this? Well, they're doing it because they need, even the people that are at the peak of success and notoriety and whatever in their life have to find some way to feel like they're progressing. And, you know, from the outside, you with the nice car, living in Dubai, in the nice apartment, with all of the followers and the money and the business and the clothes and the app, you still need to find something that challenges you. You have to. Or else even you with all of the, you know, ease and success and accolades and stuff is going to feel unfulfilled. And this is one of the problems of certain types of fame. Dan Bilzerian's not an ideal example of this, but he's the closest enough one that I can find. Dan doesn't open up enough about his grind. I'm sure that he works very hard on a lot of things. I know that he worked incredibly hard on his book, no ghostwriter, and he very much dedicated himself to that process. But from the outside, his lifestyle just looks like hedonism and no challenge, despite the fact he's in really great condition. I saw him at the UFC Power Slap thing. The guy he's bigger than I've ever seen him before. He's absolutely massive, like really, really big boy. Good condition, very good condition. But he doesn't open enough about that, which I don't think forms a particularly good role model for people that look at success, because they see success as easy. You go, look, the kind of success that everybody that's listening to this podcast wants to have is success that allows them to find increasingly more difficult challenges to face. That's success.
Speaking of challenges, you're writing a book now as well, aren't you?
I am writing a book, yes.
Has that been a challenge?
Yeah, it's dude, sitting down and looking at 80,000 words of a word count that we need to hit is, so it's me and a co-author. We haven't fully submitted everything yet in terms of proposal, but we're working through that. But it's great. It's really, really great. I never thought I would be a writer. I'm telling you, and everybody can harass Mike to do this, I want you to start a newsletter. I really want you to start a newsletter. I think you would find it phenomenal. It's one of my favorite things that I need to do every single week. Really enjoy sitting down and writing mine. If anybody wants to check it out. Actually, if you want to get a list of 100 life-changing books and check out the newsletter that I do, go to chriswillex.com/books. It's free, and all of the books that have impacted me the most are available on there, and you can go and look at them, and then it'll sign you up to my newsletter, which is pretty good. I love writing it every single week. And the same thing goes for the book. Never considered myself a writer, hated writing at uni, never did English, never did any kind of, commercial writing, literary writing, like education or training. And then I get to sit down and do this project about something that I really care about with a unbelievably competent co-author. And he writes something and then I improve it. And then I write something and he improves it. And I go, oh my God, this is writing. And this is one of the great things about the modern world, that all of these things used to be gatekept. If somebody wanted to do this, you'd need to be a late night show, David Letterman or whatever, with a huge production crew, but you don't anymore. And what you get to see, and this is why the alternative media is disdained so much by the legacy media, is because a lot of less talented, less hardworking people are no longer protected by the walls that lack of access afforded them. You know, if in order to do an interview show, you need $500,000 and a huge corporation behind you, you can actually be shit and still get away with it and no one can find you out. Whereas now, you know, there's episodes that you'll have done that'll get more plays than a primetime interview on some TV channel. Easily. Why?
It's pretty crazy, though.
Yeah, it's insane. Right. And it's totally democratized and made that everything's now meritocratic. It's like, okay, in terms of merit, are you better? And that's not to say that, you know, everybody knows that there are creators out there who have huge plays and you go, I don't know why I'm watching this. This is shit. But it still seems to crush for whatever reason, right? Who they are, what they are, whether they can manipulate the algorithm or whatever. But for the most part, the best people rise to the top. Because if you're not the best, then why is someone watching you? They'll watch someone else.
I don't know if we can talk about what the book is about, but how much of what you're writing is the opinions you've taken from other people versus your own creative, original thinking?
Got you, yeah. So the book is about the challenges in the mating market at the moment, which is something that I've been very interested in over the last year and a half or so, 2 years. This one is mostly me interpreting a combination of data, culture, and science, me and my co-author. And that is broadly original work. There is another book that will happen once this one's done, which will be more similar to Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, but will be all of the best lessons that I've taken from the podcast. All of the...
I guess like Tim Ferriss one, the...
Tools for Titans.
Yeah.
Similar, but less... it's still going to be filtered through me. So what Tim did was Tim took insights from Matt Fraser and whatever, and he had kind of like quite a relatively rigid format and then repurposed it. Mm-hmm. So it was like a collage book of other people's insights. This will be how I've taken a particular conversation with someone, what it's meant to me, how it's not necessarily affected my life, but like how I've linked all of this stuff together. And that I really love too. But yeah, the one that we're doing at the moment is like, we're pretty deep in data and research and psychological literature. And then it's like the goal is, okay, and how do I relate this to Nicki Minaj lyrics or whatever? It's like, how do I make this as accessible as possible? It needs to be super mainstream. It needs to be, your mum could pick it up and read it and go, I understand what's going on here. Mm-hmm. It's not hardcore science, but it's not total fluff, just opinion piece. It sits perfectly in the middle. That's the goal.
How's I've been curious about this for a while. How's the dating life for you and everything you've got going on at the moment? Do you have time?
Well, yeah. So I'm in a relationship, which means that it's actually good to have. I think long distance is.
Have you spoken about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
There you are. You don't watch enough. One of the advantages of long distance, especially when you're busy, is that you periodize relationships, right? You can focus on work for a long amount of time, and then you can have a period where you focus on relationship, and then you switch back.
I think that makes you appreciate each other a little bit more as well.
Certainly. I mean, there's definitely disadvantages too. But yeah, it's being able to focus on doing this sort of a travel without, there's never any, and you know, if you have the right partner, they're not going to stick it in your neck about you pursuing your passion in any case. But there's never even a concern about that, because you have a period where you're doing your thing, and then you have a period where you're doing the together thing, and then you go back. So it's right now it's like very, very optimized.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
So from all the interviews you've done, all the very educated and knowledgeable people you've spoken to.
You've been on twice.
What like supplements, life hacks, and tools are you using to optimize your health and performance?
Cool.
I'm sure there's a huge list, but what are the things which really...
The longest levers. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, a lot of this comes from Huberman, and I think that he's been such an important introduction to the world of health and advice, because it's so evidence-based what he does. Not everybody agrees with everything that he says. For me, a morning walk is a non-negotiable. As soon as I'm up, I'm making a beeline for daylight, or as close to daylight or sunlight as I can get. And it's almost like frantic. I'm like, up, no caffeine for the first 90 minutes, salt in water. So I use Element, which is just tastes fantastic. Your adrenal system is what's active for the first 90 minutes of the day. Your adenosine system that caffeine acts on isn't. So having a morning coffee is literally pointless. It
destroys you in the afternoon.
Correct. Yeah. You're just stacking caffeine, down-regulating your sensitivity whilst not actually helping you feel more awake. So Element, salt in water, or, you could use Himalayan pink salt or whatever, but it doesn't taste that good. That walk, get back. Breath work, use State app, which is $1.50 a month, and it's really great. It programs in progressive overload. Really, really fantastic. 4 pathways, super simple. Then meditate. If I'm doing guided, I'm using Waking Up by Sam Harris. If I'm doing unguided, I use Insight Timer, which is just like a meditation timer app. Then I'll read for about 10 to 15 minutes. And this is usually the same unless I'm like traveling or I've got different stuff. One really great thing for people that want to get into reading but find books a little bit heavy going, which I was not a reader and still broadly don't consider myself to be one. If you've got a Kindle, or if you have a birthday coming up and you think, I really want to make a commitment to this, just ask someone to get you a Kindle for your birthday, and Send to Kindle for Google Chrome is an extension that will turn any web page into an optimized Kindle document and send it straight to the device. So let's say that you're looking at an article that someone sends you or that you see online, and you're like, oh, this is cool and interesting, but trying to read something, for me, trying to read an article on my laptop, I'm just not in reading mode. I'm in flitting around the internet and emails and work mode. Press this button and it appears on the Kindle, and then the next morning I'll wake up and have maybe 3 things that I saw yesterday, and I'll spend 15 minutes and I'll set a timer. So all of this is timed, right? The apps either do it, or when I'm reading, I'll start a countdown timer for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. You can get through a good amount. You can maybe 1 or 2 articles in that time. Think, oh wow, and that just sets my day up. So that's a long lever.
So is that from the moment you wake up? Are you spending? Is that like 1 hour, or is that
just under an hour?
Just under an hour before even looking at your phone?
Correct. No,
emails?
Correct. So I have a second and a third phone. I have 3 phones. So I have one that's got all of my contact stuff on, that's got my emails, my WhatsApp, my texts. I have another one which is social media. What is it that George calls it? One is kale and the other's cocaine. He's got a kale phone and a cocaine phone.
That's so true.
Yeah. So taking social media off your main phone is great. And the other reason that it's great is if you put it on, and you can do this super easy, right? Everybody's going to upgrade their phone at some point. Just don't sell the last phone. It's only worth 200 quid. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Just keep that. That's now your cocaine phone. Take social media off the main one. And then it means that you check it when it's Wi-Fi only, because you've only got 1 SIM card. So you can't take it out of the house with you. So when you're out and about, maybe you spend time watching YouTube or in texting or WhatsApping, but you're not falling down the TikTok, Instagram rabbit hole. And then I have a third phone, which is the personal development phone. So that's just meditation timer, breath work, like other bits and pieces that I would use. Don't look at your phone. I mean, sleep with your phone outside of your bedroom, massive life hack. Probably the longest lever that you can have. You're never going to roll over in the middle of the night and check it. You're not going to watch it before you go to bed. You're not going to use it first thing in the morning. Just put it in the kitchen. Take the charger right now and put it in the kitchen or somewhere else.
That's one thing that I'm not doing and I need to do. And I think it's the reason why my sleep is so weird. It would
change everything. It would change absolutely everything.
Yeah. You've got the Whoop as well?
Correct. Yeah. So I use Whoop. It's the best wearable that I've found. I think what they're doing is really, really effective. I'd be very interested to see when they bring out the 5.0, what they can change in terms of hardware, if they can improve even more some of the accuracy, but it's great. Sleep, massive lever for me. I never prioritized it previously. 7 to 8 hours ish in bed, which usually nets out. And this is the main thing that I learned from Whoop, is the amount of time that you spend asleep is not the amount of time that you've been in bed.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what your sleep efficiency is at. Mine's usually in the like mid to high 80s.
It always seems to say that I'm awake for like an hour or so.
Yeah.
Throughout the night.
Me too. But you do have micro awakenings, right? But yeah, that's the main thing. Oh, I got 7 hours last night. It's like, no, you were in bed for 7 hours. You got 6:15. Like, that's not a lot.
Yeah.
So that's the main like red pill I took from that. Other things, hydration, a little bit of intermittent fasting, remembering that now my goal is mental performance rather than physical performance. So the things that are maybe optimal for your mind aren't necessarily what's optimal for lifting things. So I've had to make a bit of a sacrifice with regards to how I train and like macros and calories. But it means that when I sit down on a podcast, I'm firing on all cylinders, which is fine. Because remember what I said, like what's the highest point of contribution? What's the single ordinating principle through which everything else gets squeezed? Does this make me better as a podcaster?
Yeah.
Does this make me better as a podcaster? And for me, I work really well when I'm fasted. Not too much, but right now is totally perfect. Like mid-morning to around about 2 p.m., a little bit of caffeine, a little bit of nootropics, and I feel great.
Mm-hmm.
So that usually takes me up until the rest of my day would include a bit of writing on the morning, emails, bike desk, huge life hack.
You showed me that yesterday.
I'm going to get you, you're going to have one and you're going to put it in that corner and everyone's going to realize that it's a game changer.
It sounds ridiculous, but you showed me last night and it actually makes quite a lot of sense.
Yeah. So it's like a recumbent cycling desk. So anyone, for the people in either the US or the UK, if you can imagine going to a David Lloyd's or a Lifetime Fitness or something, and it's one of those bikes where your legs aren't below you, below the seat, they're out in front of you. So you almost sort of sit. It's one of the ones where the handles would be by the sides and there's a little backrest. And you have a massive desk that is attached to the bike, goes up and down, forward and back, tilts. The seat angle as well can be totally locked in. And this thing is 350 quid. It's called an EXOWork bike desk. It's the 2000i that I've got. And I did so much research to make sure that what I got was the right one. And it was so good that I bought one of my good friends it for his wedding, as his wedding gift toward the back end of last year.
They should make you a sponsored athlete for that.
I honestly should have. I should reach out to them and get them to partner up, but I'm happy to just talk about it because I think it's great. Getting zone 2 cardio in is something that no one really cared about. 10 years ago, who the fuck was talking about zone 2, really, right? Except for probably like endurance races.
What's the heart rate for zone 2?
So the easiest way to do it is just, can I hold a conversation with a little bit of breath in between? But for me, I aim to go from 120 to about 135, 140-ish.
Yeah, it's not too strenuous, but it's...
Not at all. And it means that you can tick over on emails. For me, when I pass 130, I'm like, okay, I can't quite like hold my thoughts as much. Yeah, exactly. Or just nothing, right? Yeah. Nothing comes out. And I can just sit and do emails. And I showed you the graph last night. I'm accumulating about 180 minutes, 3 hours of zone 2 a week. And it's while I'm doing emails or while I'm like on a call or something. And
when you add that up, that definitely helps to keep you leaner.
Absolutely, sure. Yeah. I mean, each session's about 60 minutes at that pace is around about 500 to 600 cals, which is great. You know, across a week, what's that? Half a pound of weight loss? Like 1,500, it's like what, 3,500 for a pound of weight loss? Yeah, so it's like half, that's an additional deficit, which is going to give you more calories to play with, benefits for HRV, benefits for resting heart rate. Zone 2 is something that I'm really getting into, but the only reason I'm getting into it is because I've made it super easy. Zone 2 sucks cock. It's like, it's slower than a run, faster than a walk. It's just so difficult to get done.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some of the long levers.
I would do that on a treadmill. So I would walk on a treadmill for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, heart rate, probably 125, 130 beats per minute.
It's got to be a big incline if you're walking.
Yeah, 11 to 12. So that's what I would do. But I've noticed when doing the walking on the treadmill that you can't really do a whole lot. Like you can't do anything on a laptop.
Use your phone.
You can, I will try and organize stuff on my phone or maybe just watch something, watch something educational.
Yeah.
But in
Prep
terms
for a guest or whatever, maybe.
Yeah, but doing actual work on a laptop, it seems to be
bike desk.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
You also did 500 days without caffeine.
I did. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, why? And second of all, what did you learn from that? Because I personally love coffee, but I don't know if it's because I love the effect of coffee or because it's just a habit. It's like, I'll have a coffee.
Well, I did the alcohol-free thing 6 or 7 years ago now, and I think that this is low and no. We were talking about it last night. Low and no alcohol is so trendy now. So many people. It's been a big lever in your life, a really big change in your life. It's been a big change in tons and tons and tons of people's lives, and you can talk about people's alcohol use and they will usually be okay-ish. If you come for their fucking coffee use, you are mincemeat. If you start to point a finger at someone's caffeine consumption, it's like you've insulted their mum.
Yeah.
Because people are very, very connected to it. And they also don't see, most people can see that alcohol is probably bad for them in some way or another. Coffee and caffeine doesn't necessarily have that. So the reason that I did 500 days was I began to notice that I didn't have energy levels. I had variable levels of caffeine concentration in my blood. And you even see this with people when you talk to them. Someone won't say, I'm tired. They'll say, I need a coffee. So they've replaced understanding their body's signals of energy level with, this is just an indication of caffeine level. All it is just I need more or I need less caffeine. And you paper over the cracks of your own inefficiency of recovery by using coffee to buttress your shit sleep. So if you're like, maybe it shouldn't be the case that I'm tired at 11 a.m. and I need to have a coffee. Like, you shouldn't be. You should be absolutely fine. But people get into this dangerous cycle of using caffeine to wake up, which restricts their sleep, which means they're more tired, which means they need more caffeine, and they're desensitizing as they go through, especially in America, dude. These energy drinks out there, a Celsius like or a Bang or a Ghost, 300, 350 mgs. Insane. That's like what? 4 cups of coffee, 5 cups of coffee? It's wild.
Yeah.
So I stopped for 500 days without any caffeine, apart from being stealth caffeined if someone didn't get me the right, like, Diet Coke with no caffeine and it was like a trace amount of caffeine in there and stuff. So 500 days without caffeine. What I learned was I didn't need it. I didn't get withdrawals from it. Some people will get headaches.
What about the first week though?
Fine.
Okay.
Fine. Absolutely fine. I actually was. I would have a coffee mid-morning and I would have a Nocco or some sort of energy drink later in the day. So I was talking, in the region of 200 to 300 probably mgs-ish throughout the day that I would consume, maybe up to 350. Moderate user, I guess, of caffeine pretty much every single day. No issues when I stopped. No headaches. But if you want to do that, just taper it down. Just replace each coffee with a decaf over time, then replace each decaf with a nothing to do with coffee. Switching to Element first thing in the morning made a big difference because that was optimizing my adrenals, my hydration, my appetite as well, and brain function was all sorted through hydration rather than through caffeine. I think a lot of the problems that people fix with caffeine is actually hydration, and it's not just water that you need for hydration, right? You need the U hydration, you need the salts in order to be able to absorb that into your body. Like literally, what the thing that makes the synapses be able to link up with each other is the salts that you've got that allow that hydration to work. So that's mitigating your brain function heavily. Other things that I learned were that my sleep improved drastically. My energy levels became more stable throughout the day. They weren't peaking and troughing quite so much. You do lose one thing that someone brought up the other day that I didn't even think about. You do get a nice high, like the physiological sense or the psychological sense, of being on caffeine is very enjoyable. And some people may use caffeine almost as a crutch to give them some happiness throughout the day. That's a difficult one to replace, but you can do that with the right nootropics. Go caffeine free. Qualia Mind that I use has got a caffeine free version, which means that you can get a little bit of a lift without having caffeine in. And then after 500 days, bringing it back in and reintroducing caffeine, my sensitivity is so
about that first
piss
coffee
weak. Yeah, I had like half an espresso, so like 40 mgs or whatever of caffeine. I'm so sensitive. But now it means that when I actually take caffeine, if I use it before a training session, I have an unbelievable training session as opposed to just an adequate training session.
That's why I don't understand, like, so many guys that go to the gym, they're loading up on so much pre-workout before every session to the point where it's not even doing anything anymore. And they feel like to take that pre-workout, it's just for them to feel normal.
What's your pre-workout stack?
Let's have a coffee.
You don't use any nitric oxide, beta-alanine?
No, because I know all of that is not necessary as long as I eat properly and have a good night's sleep. It's the sleep that will, without a doubt, dictate how good that session is. If I've had a good sleep, I will even notice like I have a crazy pump. It feels like my skin is like ripping apart. I'm stronger. It's ridiculous. So instead of thinking about, what can I have to try and just temporarily elevate my energy levels throughout the session, I'm like, okay, so how do I actually focus and fix my sleep?
Yep.
And usually I find that when I do have a pre-workout, and when I've had it in the past, particularly later on in the day, it just completely kills my sleep. I can't fall asleep when I've had a pre-workout after 12 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, dude, I mean, caffeine it's sort of lurking in everybody's lives, and we've got these problems around sleep, and everybody's aware of how important sleep is to, Dr. Matthew Walker, that podcast on Rogan. I think it's added, I think that podcast that he did with Rogan, I think it's number 1109, which shows how many times I've gone back and listened to it, probably saved, like, hundreds of thousands of years of combined human life. All of the extension, the millions of people that listened to it, and all of the people that made the changes, a couple of years each. Crazy. So I very much think caffeine is one of the things that people will be coming for next. I think, I was early on the no alcohol trend, and I think that I'm early on the no caffeine trend as well. And I just think, take a break, dude. Take a break for 3 months and see what happens, and see what life is like without caffeine, even if all it does is reset your sensitivity. I think you probably need maybe 2 months off. So my favorite thing now is that, my rule that I have now is I never do caffeine 2 days in a row. So that maintains this level of sensitivity that I've got, where for me, a 50 milligram dose is pretty much bang on. 100 if I'm training is bang on. Much more than that, I can get up to about 150-ish, 120, 150-ish. Much more than that, and I can't really focus very well, and it's too much. And if I use caffeine today, I can't use it tomorrow. And if I want to use it tomorrow, and I didn't use it yesterday, I can't use it today. So it's just never 2 days in a row. And that's maintaining my sensitivity. That's not wrecking my sleep. And it's great. My relationship with caffeine has never been better. The same way that my relationship with alcohol has never been better after taking that time off.
I think you've inspired me to give that a try, because I'm averaging 2 or 3 a day. Mm-hmm. I've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah. So, you just don't know what it would be like.
Yeah.
You just don't know what life is like if you don't do that.
Have you, with everything that you've got going on, have you ever gone through periods of monk mode? Because I know quite a lot of people do speak about this, and with all distractions that are going on in today's world, if you have something that needs to be done, a particular task, or you're building something, some people would advise to just literally cut out all the distractions.
Cast off the world.
Live like a monk, get it done. Almost ignore your desires,
correct,
which could be potentially dangerous.
Yep.
And just focus on getting whatever it is that you need to do done.
Yes, I did. I did a good period of this when I started the podcast. It was also coincided with going sober. So you can stack these things on top of each other quite effectively. If you're trying to do monk mode, you might as well try and go sober as well, because you're not going to be going out as much, or maybe at all. I certainly think that for most people, a focused period of really intense personal development and professional development is very important. And you don't need to do this all the time. We were talking before we started about the fact that if you've trained throughout your 20s, holding on to muscle is way easier than building it as you get into your 30s. And it's kind of the same with this. I think everybody needs to go through a period where they have just intense productivity. They're doing meditation consistently most of the time. They're learning about productivity methods and getting things done and brain dumping, and they're building notes apps and, all of the things. And they're making a ton of errors. And a lot of this is wasted time. But accumulating that time and attention is very important. It was very formative for me to dedicate myself to seeing what was in there. And all of this for me, looking back now, I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, it coincided so perfectly, because I had this kind of existential crisis, realizing that maybe I wasn't fulfilling myself in the way that I should have been toward the end of my 20s. I had success in the way that the world would tell you that success should make you feel happy, but something was missing a little bit. And I didn't really know who I was, and I'd played a role for so long, the persona thing. And then I was like, right, okay, I need to make a change. Plus I was going to go sober. plus I wanted to build a meditation habit, plus I wanted to start a podcast, plus. So all of these things were facilitated by me just going, okay, I'm just going to stop doing a lot of stuff. And the main lever for me was stopping partying. Because if you look across your week, if you're someone that is, a typical 20s, 30s guy, you're going to spend 1 day to 2 days every fortnight hanging out your ass, not feeling good, resetting your habits, eating like shit, not training. Building habits is hard enough as it is. Throw a hangover on top of that and tell me that you're going to hit your meditation streak.
Yeah.
No fucking way, dude. No one's meditating when they're hungover.
Yeah.
Monks don't meditate when they're hungover.
No one's eating healthy when they're hungover as well.
No. And you need, in the same way as if you want to make a big change with your body, you can do in 6 months intensely what would take you 20 years to do half-heartedly. Just really dedicate yourself to it, because it's not just about the focus and the commitment. It's about the fact that it's all you're thinking about. It's like being obsessive. And I think both of us have got an obsessive streak in us, which when you utilize it and direct it appropriately is really fucking powerful. So if you're the sort of person that kind of can't switch off, that can be a bit of a curse and it can make you feel like not good. But if you can just nudge it a tiny little bit towards something which is going to be really useful for you, it can make a huge change. So yeah, monk mode. There's a really great article by Illimitable Man. So if you just search Illimitable Man monk mode, that breaks down a very good philosophy around that. And I read this article. I actually started talking to him a little while ago. It's from like 2012. It's like the early teens of the 2000s. And it really breaks it down. Focus on, there's like 3 I's, I can't remember, like isolation, identity, and something else. And it's just really, really good. Focusing on you, what you want to achieve, personal development, not being distracted, steady routine. And it changed the person that I am. It made me more me, which is like weird to say, but that's because I wasn't fully me previously.
Do you think females are into self-development and personal development as much as men?
I think it is more a male trait based on what I've seen. I think typically, especially in the modern world, guys need to find themselves more than girls do. We spoke on my show yesterday, which is a really good episode, about neither men or women are having a fantastic time at the moment. Both are being lost. I think that the identity crisis for women hasn't yet hit, but I think it's going to be here within about the next 5 to 10 years. I think that is going to be something that they're going to face. But especially over the last 10 years or so, a lot of the things that guys would have previously found pride in have fallen away, which has meant that they've had to, manifest and create their own sense of pride and virtue and so on. For girls, less so. But I know some girls that are absolute fucking killers, that are, more disciplined than me, weightlifters, athletes, artists that are insane in that regard. But I think a lot of what's driving us is the desire for status, competition, prestige, hierarchy. That's a typically male trait because that would be associated with getting a better mate. A cool stat that I found for the book the other day was, in order for a man to increase his mate value by 2 points on a 10-point scale, he needs to 10x his income. For a woman to achieve the same 2-point increase on a 10-point scale, she would need to increase her income by 10,000 times. The point being that men just don't value that in women.
Yeah.
Therefore, why would women pursue that? Now, they can pursue it from first principles and think this is going to fulfill me and blah, blah, blah. But as we said earlier on, all of the desires that we have are rooted in our biology, right? So it's the same way as men spend less time on their appearance on average than women. Why? Well, it's because our appearance is less important to the opposite sex, usually.
Do you think that this point in time is your golden years?
Yeah, so yes.
So first of all, what would you define as the golden years?
So I had this guy, Jake Humphrey, on the podcast. He hosts the High Performance podcast in the UK. He's also BT Sports correspondent for everything. Really great sports broadcaster, turned podcaster, still doing the broadcasting. He does the Formula One, I think, for BT. And he was talking to me about this concept he had, which is he was lamenting the fact that he's got everything right for him. He's got a beautiful wife, kids, family, professional career, private career. Everything is just right for him. And he was lamenting the fact that he's always still pushing for more, always still sort of peering past the shoulder of the present moment to see what's coming next. And he's not fully enjoying it so much. And he said, I have to remind myself, these are the golden years. It's like, you're never going to have a time in life where you don't have problems. Problems are always going to be a fixture. What did you think? That one day you're just going to wake up to a world where there's no problems, like completing a video game and the next level's just totally blank. So the problems are always going to be there. So accept the fact that problems are a feature, not a bug. How can you embrace that whilst enjoying the present moment, whilst not looking past its shoulder to see what's coming next? These are the golden years. Like, this is when I'm the most energetic, the most competent, everything. And for me, I've said it a couple of times to Zach, but I need to say it more to my housemate. Dude, when we look back, this is going to be the time where we think, fuck yeah. Like, I wasn't at the peak of what I was doing. I was still on the way up, but that's what made it exciting. And even Tate says this, man, like, you know, Andrew Tate, dispenser of philosophy wisdom, said, having things isn't exciting. Getting things is exciting. It's all about the achievement. It's all about what comes next. It's all about moving towards something that you genuinely care about. And, you know, for him, I think it's more about, like, I think he was talking about like a new Bugatti, but it can be whatever it is that you want to do, like the next conversation, the next lesson that you learn, the next insight that you have about life, the next piece of curiosity that you satisfy, the next piece of content you create, the next message you get from somebody that says, dude, I really appreciate the lesson that you gave. It changed my life. It did the whatever. Looking back, being in the moment and realizing that when you look back, this will be the time that you cherish the most. It's a very strange emotion to feel. What do you think? Are you in the golden years?
I think mentally, I think they're yet to come, because I feel like with each year I'm developing, I'm learning more, I'm understanding more about the world myself. I think that's just going to continue to get better. However, on the other side, when we're looking at physical appearance, particularly when it comes to like building muscle, the aesthetics, there will be a point where I peak. I don't know if I've peaked there yet. I mean, I'm certainly looking at myself and I'm like, oh, like, this isn't how it used to be. Or like, I would look in the mirror and there's a couple of like gray whiskers appearing on the side of my head. It's like, okay, so I am getting to that point where things are starting to change. Maybe I might peak physically mid-30s, but at that point it will start to go downhill. So I do think and look in the mirror and think, hey, this is probably the best you're going to look.
Yep.
So in a sense, I'm making the most of it.
Yeah.
Like, especially when it comes to making content or just like going out with my photographer, taking pictures, like make the most of it, because you're only going to look like this
once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're going to start to get a little bit older. But the good thing is, with a man, you can still continue to look attractive as you age, which is unfortunately the opposite for
correct.
quite a lot of women.
Well, the other thing that you've highlighted there, which is really important, is that you're now looking at deriving your sense of worth from things that integrate your physique but aren't necessarily just your physique.
Yeah.
You know, the podcast is a really good example of that. The fact that it doesn't matter, basically. You could be in a onesie, right? It's about what you say, and a significant portion of people aren't even watching, listening. So
I thought that was very dangerous for me to just place my entire career and the way people viewed me and what I was known for purely just the way I look.
There was the world's #1 supermodel, this woman in her 50s, Polina Porikova, I think she's called. And there was an article that came out about her about a year and a half ago. And she was complaining about the fact that when she walked into a room at a party, guys weren't paying attention to her. Her husband had died before, like millionaire husband had died recently. She's got two or three kids, I think. And she was the #1 supermodel in the world, like classic sort of Eastern European-y or maybe like Nordic-y blonde woman. Fucking stunning. Good looking 56-year-old. not perhaps with the same sort of luck that she had earlier on in her life. And it really distressed me to hear her talk like that, because what I realized was that she hadn't found a way to transcend the game that she used to play. She was 56, still trying to play the game that she was playing when she was 26. And was talking about the fact that she'd go into a room and guys wouldn't pay attention to her because they were distracted by the 26-year-olds in the room. And I thought to myself, when you were 26 and 56-year-olds in the room were being ignored because you walked in, you didn't have a problem. That made me think that it was hypocrisy. But the main thing was, when you're 56, if the main place that you're taking your sense of value from is the way that you look, you are fighting a losing battle. Your goal should be, by that age, to have other things that you take pride in. Your wisdom, your bravery, your courage, your insight, your benevolence, your ability to be altruistic, to be helpful, to provide goodwill, to be positive. Like, those are things that will continue to accrue throughout your entire life. Your looks are a depreciating asset. Your mind is an appreciating asset. Invest wisely.
I think that's a good message for a lot of the youngsters, particularly men in the early 20s, who are complaining about life, how hard it is. Just be patient, because the good years, the golden years, are probably 10 years away.
Yeah.
So just focus on investing in yourself, developing your skill set, whatever it is, your career, everything else. And then when those golden years come, then you're
ready. Well, that's a really, really great point. A few things there. So first off, like the black pill, incel, men going their own way movement that we see at the moment, and this general nature of cynicism, which is on the internet. First off, I hate it. I hate how cynical the internet's become, especially when it comes to dating, but with everything, like, what's the point in trying? The world's against me, et cetera, et cetera. And I understand that people have got challenges and they've faced like hardship in life and stuff. Like, that's the fucking game, mate. The game is the hardship. Some people have had it really, really tough. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of people haven't had it that fucking tough, and they're just making a meal out of it. Like, some of the dark depths that I went to with, consistent periods of acute depression and bedridden sadness. Yeah, it sucked. But I don't identify with that. So the part of the cynicism that exists on the internet that is so self-reinforcing, because it encourages people to either blame somebody else or to see themselves as a victim. So much of that is a byproduct of just being young as a guy. If you're 45 and have tried to make relationships with women work and failed, I can understand you saying that you're going MGTOW and that you're, casting off relationships because you've been hurt too many times. If you're 19 and you've had your heart broken for the first time, how the fuck are you saying you're going your own way? Like, what is that? That's you just giving up. Fine. Okay. Be the giver-upper guy. Like, you're being a pussy. Like, let's say how it is. I usually dance around this topic because I don't want to upset people on the internet, because there's cynics out there that'll say, you don't understand how hard it must be easy for you or whatever. No, fuck off, bro. Everybody's got challenges. Everybody's got things that they're struggling with. Man up.
Yeah.
Fucking man up. The world is as easy and convenient as it's ever going to be, and you're complaining about the fact that, the existential weight of fucking living. Everybody's got that. Everybody has to face this stuff. So
I don't think there's enough people saying man up.
Yeah. And I don't mean ignore your emotions. I mean fucking integrate your emotions.
Yeah.
Talk about them. Manning up also includes being mature about your emotions. It means crying in front of your friends and being vulnerable and open. This isn't like some ancient archetype of patriarchal toxic masculinity. This is me saying fucking transcend and include your masculinity. Transcend and include the challenges that you've been through. Some of the guys that I'm in men's groups with, and again, this gets onto the age thing we're talking about. One of the dudes wrote this 10 paragraph long message into a group chat with 13, 14, 15 guys in that was like, boys, I'm having a bad time. A bunch of people that were online replied in iMessage, boys, I'm having a bad time. What's up? He's like, fucking unloaded this thing. Business is failing. All of the staff are leaving. We've got a bunch of cancellations happening. Wife and me are having just dumped this whole thing. That guy opened up. Right? That guy opened up. Yes, he had a support system around him, but he worked to find a support system. He's in the right place. He moved to a city where he could find people. So Some people are struggling. Some people just need to lean into, okay, I can deal with this. I know that I can deal with this. This is the fucking task. The challenge that you are facing might not be going to war. It might not be conquering a new land. It might just be conquering yourself, right? So you are in your early 20s, perhaps, or maybe you're in your early 30s. Many of the problems that you're facing will evaporate and dissolve with time, right? You do not know. The guys that are struggling with women, like fucking hell, like I struggled with girls. I struggled massive. Like I was the most unpopular kid in school. The most, by miles and miles and miles. If I'd been on the internet, I absolutely, if I was 15 years old, 100% would have identified with like a MGTOW black pill thing. Like nobody likes me. Nobody understands me. I feel alone and lost. And I would have 100% seen the seductiveness of that group. You can't get rid of it, right? So your only alternative is to like ignore that and get out of it and have faith that over time you are an appreciating asset, especially as a guy. You know, girls, I think there isn't like a WGTOW, like there isn't a women going their own way thing, especially for younger girls because they mature so much more quickly. And, you know, when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, like you've got the world at your feet for many girls. For guys, just have faith in the fact that you do not know where your trajectory in life is going to take you. And as you grow up, you're going to go, fuck, I can't believe how competent and powerful and capable I am. I can't believe how well-balanced and progressed I am and how people treat me differently. So that's an absolutely huge part. And then
for me, I think I was 28 when I finally felt, okay, cool. Like I'm actually content with the person I am and the way that life is going.
Took me to probably 32, 33 before I felt like that. And that was massively facilitated through the podcast.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it's difficult, man. Like striking the balance between encouraging and like, you know, being sympathetic is difficult. But
I think I've always got to thank my dad for this because he was very supportive.
Is that Rich? Big Rick? Or is that your brother?
That's my brother. My dad's Clive. Big Clive.
Fuck, Clive's a mint name for a dad. My dad's Kevin.
You can't imagine a
baby
Clive.
Yeah, that's a name that you given when you're 18. Like up until that, you're Connor, and now you're Clive.
Yeah, he was always so supportive, but I remember he never like showered me with sympathy and be like, "Oh, don't worry about this," blah blah blah. He literally would just say to me, "Oh, just man up, like, come on, just like kind of get on with it." Mm. And I definitely experienced that throughout my teenage years, and I think that definitely had a big impact on the way I approach obstacles and hardships in my life.
You could see how that could be maladaptive as well, though, right? You know, that if there was something, you know, if he went through some really big trauma and he was like, "Oh, just man up about it," which I'm sure that he wouldn't. He would have been able to temper the amount of sympathy appropriately, right? But this is the thing. This is the problem with, first off, having most of the communication on the internet being in, you know, 100-word Reddit posts or 280-character tweets, is that you don't have the opportunity to find this nuance to say, like, encouraging guys to deal with hardship and giving them the confidence to know that they can bear that burden is great, whilst not ignoring the fact that there are genuine traumas and challenges that guys just need a fucking like man hug for, you know? And that was what that dude put in the chat. He was like, I'm not lifting this weight. Like, it's, boys, it's too much. And one of the guys was like, "Where are you?" Drove to go and see him, took him a coffee, sat down, had a chat. That's fucking manning up as well. And I don't know, I haven't heard from the boys about how it went, but I'm going to presume that maybe he cried. Maybe he raged, maybe fucking broke a mirror, maybe like fucking trashed the house that they were in, maybe he did whatever, he did what he needed to deal with that. But that's part of the challenge too, you know? And yeah, knowing that the golden years are probably ahead of you, and even if they're not, like, just make them now. Like, you have the opportunity to do it. Yeah.
How is life in Austin? I was curious to know what you were living in Newcastle.
Correct.
Up until when?
November 2021.
And then you chose Austin.
So the US had been shut for travel from the Shenzhen zone for COVID up until the start of November 2021. Then they opened up. I'd had it in my head that maybe making a move would be a good idea. Miami, New York, Nashville, LA, or Austin. COVID immediately put stop to New York or LA because they both just became dumpster fires.
But why America?
I'd traveled a lot to America. I'd done... Did you ever do dark romance covers? Have you ever been on them?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
I've done like...
I was on the front cover of a book called Taint, which... Taint. Not Tate. Taint.
Okay.
But if you actually
was
look
that
up...
Chris Davies? Was that Specular? Was it one of his shots?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he sells tons of those. That's
Sarita Jennings.
Okay, yeah.
Apparently, if you look up the definition of taint in the American dictionary, it's like, it actually means gooch. Yes.
How odd.
Yeah, but it was a sexual romance novel.
So I was on the cover of a bunch of those as well.
Yeah.
The first one that was sold for me was a Chris Davies photo too, Specular one.
I don't think many people even know that about me. I got flown out to New York to do a book signing.
Yeah, me too.
And there was just a huge queue of
people wanting photos with
middle-aged
Correct.
women.
Yep, we're running in Rascals, those mobility scooters.
Yeah.
Yep. I did this every summer for like 3 or 4 years. And that's something, so just like a side point, you do so much shit as a young guy that you forget. Like, that might be the first time that anybody knows that you're on the cover of a dark romance book. I always forget about it as well, that I did it for ages and ages. So there'll be people going out and buying it now. You go back to Amazon #1.
Well, the crazy thing is that the women that are reading these books, they see you as the front cover. So
you're the protagonist.
They're imagining
Correct.
You're the guy.
Heavily. So I started taking trips out to America. Romwad, that's like a yin yoga company, they flew me out a couple of times. The dark romance stuff, I went and did a book signing maybe 3 or 4 years in a row. I flew out to like see birds and go party and like travel and stuff. And I'd usually try and link it in with one of these like pieces of work. And I just really enjoed America. I really loved the culture. It spoke to me. And it's one of those things where at the time I was like, I'm just like having a good time. In retrospect, I'm like, yeah, it really fucking spoke to me. The culture, blue sky vision, very much a positive, industrious, building mentality, very supportive, excitable. One of the things that I really wish I could import back to the UK is the excitability of America. And, you see an American on the news in the UK or something, and they're like, yeah, man, and it's very easy for us as stoic, stiff upper lip Brits to kind of take the piss. However, I really like it. My housemate, Zach, is like a very large Labrador, like a 6'5" Labrador. And I absolutely love how excitable he gets me. We've got something that's happening. When Rogan sent me that DM saying, hey, brother, let's record a podcast, I told Z, and he just fucking lost his shit for 5. He was more excited than I was. And I was like, oh, like I have license to be excitable. Because in the UK, it's kind of, I know it's a bit like weird to be excited about stuff and giddy. It's just not. So anyway, in America, really enjoying it, loving the atmosphere, loving how everyone's building stuff and it's super positive. And then I just made more and more friends through the podcast where it just spoke to me more and more and more. Got to the back end, travel opened up, spent a month in Austin. In the space of a month, made like 20 friends, like in 30 days. It was insane. Everyone was so welcoming. Weather was great. Training was great. Podcast was phenomenal. Within a week of being there, I was on the biggest ever podcast I'd been on Tim Pool's show, in the parking lot of Alex Jones's InfoWars studio, which was also hilarious. Came back for the summer, for Christmas, and was like, I want to be there. So flew out to do Peterson 2, the in-person one that we did in San Antonio. Went straight from there to New York with Jordan and his team. Spent a couple of weeks in New York. Then went to Austin. I've just been there ever since. Got an O1, which is a alien of extraordinary abilities. That's the name of the visa that I've got for America. And that means I can be there for 3 years. I can invest. I can start businesses. I can do whatever I want. for 3 years, and then you can extend if needs be.
You got that largely because of the podcast?
Exclusively because of the podcast, yeah. Which is the first ever podcast visa that this company has worked on. All they do is O1s. A lot of it's like sports stars, singers, authors, like academics and stuff. The first ever one that they did for podcasting was that. And I actually flew to Guatemala to do the interview. So you submit this huge document, dude, the size of the things, it's got to be hard printed off, 2 copies of everything, 2 separate boxes, send it out to America, and it's got to be seen in hard copy. It's 3.5 inches thick, it's 700 pages, this thing. My assistant thankfully did the heavy lift on that. Thanks, man. And went to, because COVID had backlogged all of the embassies being shut, I needed to find one that wasn't going to take so long for me to wait. Like Dusseldorf, 2023, London, 2023, Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, like next week. So I thought, going to Guatemala. Spent 10 days in Guatemala, got accepted for the visa, and then that was it.
So what is next happening for you? Anything big? Apart from obviously the huge guests which you have coming on the podcast.
Yeah. Just keep on iterating on that, focusing on the book. So this will be probably the last podcast that I guest on for quite a while. I need to, you managed to you pipped it to the post. I'm going to do...
Hopefully you just continue to blow up so more people will come back and watch this episode.
Precisely. This is the last version of me guesting that you're going to get for at least probably 6 months, I would imagine. I need to focus on the book. That's going to be a heavy lift. It's going to be difficult, but I'm really looking forward to the discomfort of that writing process. Continue to grow the podcast, just continue to iterate there, find really fascinating, interesting people that don't have platforms that no one knows about, continue to platform them. Grow the newsletter, which I absolutely love. Like I say, that chriswillex.com/books thing, people can go and sign up to that. And other than that, it's just dial in everything else to facilitate those 2 main projects. Write the book, keep doing the podcast. Write the book, keep doing the podcast. Stay healthy. Like, don't wreck my training or totally disregard it simply to facilitate this. You can do that. If you become too monomaniacal about something, you can kind of forget about training. Fitness needs to be there, but training kind of falls away. And that's it, man.
I think you really are on the trajectory to being one of the biggest and best podcasters out there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's it just feels like a snowball going downhill now. Like if I tried to stop it, I couldn't stop it. I can't stop it now. And I can't stop working at the same rate that I'm doing 3 episodes a week for 3 years. And I can't stop doing that. I can't stop writing. I feel so fired up. I've never felt this fired up in my entire life. Like I wake up knowing that whatever's in front of me, I'm going to be able to do. Going on Rogan, doing 4 cities in 9 days across the world and all this